everyone. Welcome to the Story Behind the Agent podcast. I'm your host, Brett Chambers, and this is my co-host, Brian Miltenberger at the Chambers-Miltenberger Team here at C&amp Mortgage.
Yeah, and just a little bit about the podcast for any new listeners. After going on many coffee appointments with our realtor partners, we realized everybody's got a different story, and we kind of wanted to give them a platform to come on and tell their story and pass along any advice they have for any newer agents out there.
Yep, and this week we got Scott Gibson, so stay tuned. It's a great podcast. Welcome to the Story Behind the Agent podcast, and this week we have Scott Gibson with Keeton Co. So welcome, Scott.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, this will be fun. So, we just kind of what we discussed. Tell us a little bit about, what you were doing before real estate and what kind of drove you into why you got into real estate. Just tell us your story and how you ended up where you are right now. So,
yeah, mine's a little, I would probably say unique. Most realtors are going to say it's just unique. I wasn't even thinking about real estate and I got into real estate, right? Which is, so I taught for a few years, and loved it, and then decided, we need to
history, right? You just said that.
I did a history teacher, yeah, and enjoyed it a lot, and then made a career change, and was like, having kids, probably the opportunity to maybe make a little bit more money, right?
Yeah.
And so at the meantime, I got an office job and was just doing like clerical stuff, just in the middle of trying to figure out what I want to do. And Daniel actually approached me. I've known Daniel.
Where was the office job?
It was cleric. I mean, it was like data entry for a medical enrollment for insurance. Yeah, not great, right? Not interesting at all. It was just something I could do. It was totally different. And my wife joked, she's like, "You're going to hate being stuck behind a desk." I was like, "And you're probably right, but I'm going to do it anyway and see what happens." Mm-hmm. And so shortly into doing that, Daniel approached me, and I've known Daniel since high school. He's a few years older than I am, but I've known Daniel since high school. And so he approached me and was like, "Hey man, I'm starting a real estate team." He's like, "You have a background in some property management. You've done I was like assistant to some property manager for a little while. I was a department manager of a Lowe's over electrical. I worked in hardware before teaching. This is all these things, right? So I've done a lot of different things." And he's like, houses, how to talk to people, and he goes, teaching is a great stepping stone to doing real estate because it's just helping people understand what they're doing. And I was like, yeah. He goes, "I can teach you the contracts." And I'm like, "All right, Daniel, I know I'm not making much, but it is guaranteed."
Yeah.
And you're trying to convince me to go full commission, whatever. And I'm like,
seriously, you got it right there.
No, not happening. Right. So I actually turned him down. This was the start of me taking that office job.
Okay.
So I worked that office job for about like 11 months and, talking with my wife, and I was just like, "I can't do this anymore." I was like, "Whatever it is."
He was right.
"I can't do it." Yeah. And she was like, "Duh, I told you." And I was like, "All right, I can't do this anymore." And so I decided, I was like, "What? I'm going to keep working it until I find something else, but it's not going to be like this. Whatever I'm going to go do next is not going to be like this." And so we were the only two that obviously knew about that. It's just her and I talked about it and moved on. Less than a week later, Daniel calls me and says, "Hey man, God put you on my mind. Told me to call you again."
No kidding.
And I was like, "Okay." Well, Leslie and I's circumstances have changed at that point. He didn't know that. Leslie got promoted. She was now no longer just working for this nonprofit. She was running the nonprofit. So her salary had significantly increased in these 11 months.
Yeah.
So we looked back at the numbers and we looked at the stuff, and obviously my heart had softened to the idea of potentially looking at real estate. And we were like, "You know what? We can get by, barely, but we can get by. Like we can just get by if I go into this." So we also prayed about it, talked about it, and made the leap and made the jump. And it was, so that was, like I said, that happened, and that was rolled in. And
when was that? I don't know.
2016, 2016,
Okay.
2017, something like that.
Yeah.
And so told him I was going to do it. So I was the second ever agent to join him as part of the team. He'd already had somebody working with him for about a year at that point, but he was trying to expand the team. So I joined in with him as soon as my license got, he was already teaching me some of the systems that they had in place before my license got cleared. And then as soon as my license got cleared, I've been active to go out and do stuff. And so passed the class, did all that, and been with him, been helping him ever since.
Yeah, you started as a team, as a small team, and now look at this.
It's
Now,
three of us at that point. Daniel, myself, technically four. We had an assistant that was working, so it was Daniel, assistant, me, and then Rachel was the other agent, Rachel Porter, and then and now including staff, we're 80.
That's crazy.
Staff and agents.
And now you're the managing broker here, right?
Yeah. I told Daniel. I always kind of knew that Daniel was eventually going to break off. You knew it was going to happen. You could always tell that the team was going to grow to the point where he wanted to create his own thing, right? And so every once in a while, every 3 or 4 months, I would just say something to him about it. I'd be like, "Hey, man, whenever you ready to make the jump, let me know, and I'll help how I can."
Yeah.
And so, January of 2020, he looked at me and was like, "We're doing it. We're pulling the trigger. Get ready." And I'm like, "Okay." Right. And so then February,
did you have your license managed?
So I didn't have my broker license yet. Right. Like, you have to be, I had the required, the criteria met. I just hadn't gone and actually taken the classes or done anything. And so, February 2020, we broke off from our old brokerage, created, instead of Keeton Co Real Estate Team, we just took off the team word, right? So, that was a very easy transition. Just like remove the team and then we're good to go. We didn't know that, March of 2020, it was all going to kind of go down like it did. And it was kind of a real, obviously we know now that the market went crazy afterwards. But at that moment, for those first couple of weeks, it was like, oh my gosh, we just split off and it's all going to come crashing down. But when we left, it was, including staff, we only had 2 full-time staff at that time. There were 15 of us that left off. So literally you're talking February 2020, 15 total people to, we're sitting here today, April 2023, and we're
most
80.
people came along then.
We had 2 agents not come.
Yeah.
But then actually a year into it, one of the ones who did eventually come over. So so basically everyone left with us. Yeah.
That's pretty cool to see that. So getting that license and everything, what was besides the money, what was the scariest part about leaping into this?
The broker license. Yeah. I did the classes, anybody who's actually thinking about taking the classes for the broker license, the classes are different because it's uniquely designed, as if you would create your own brokerage. That's what they're trying to do, is teach you enough classes to where you have a general understanding concept of am I going to create my own brokerage or not? Obviously that wasn't my pursuit. And most people who get their broker's license don't. Yeah. Most of them file them that way. For me, the part I was thinking about most is that so Daniel approached me about stepping into a managing broker role, right? As soon as we created the company. Take over. Yeah, he needed somebody at the time. Again, we didn't have a massive amount of staff. We had limited, but we were growing. We were, and for those first few months, I think I know you saw it. It was literally we were bringing in 6-7 people a month for months at a time, right? They just constantly coming in. And so he realized quickly that we needed somebody to help out, not only with training the agents and making sure they understood stuff, but then also taking the compliance side off of his plate. If we're going to continue to grow, he can't have his hand in everything, right? And Daniel's great with identifying that and realizing okay, cool, I can do it. Should I do it? And the answer for him was no. I shouldn't. Reviewing contracts and making sure that we're not going to open ourselves up to potential lawsuits or something like that for messing something up like that. He needed somebody. So he approached me about it, knowing that 1, I enjoyed doing that stuff already. I enjoyed that aspect of it. And then 2, I had a knowledge base to go off of, right? It's something that it's a positive and a negative for me, that if I'm going to do something, I want to know 100% of whatever I'm about to dive into, which is annoying, right? Because I can't help myself, but at the same time, it's helpful because then I know and
what
so,
you're getting into, right?
Yeah. And so So that's what he asked me to do. So I still, majority of my income is still helping people buy and sell. But that's honestly the way I want it, right? Like I don't want to be, we already talked about the fact I don't want to be cooped up behind a desk all day long. So it gave me that flexibility where like, I'm still here. I can still help. I still help with a lot of the trainings. We actually have somebody else who helps lead a lot of those, like even more so now, which is great for me. It's freed me up because as we've grown, the more contracts we get, the more busy I am on that side of it, of the compliance side of it, more than I am on the training side of it sometimes.
Which you get to pick which one you'd rather be on the management side and the compliance side, wouldn't you?
I still do enjoy the training. I miss that every once in a while I get that teaching itch, right? Yeah. Where I want to go back and do some of that. So that, but again, yes, to answer your question wholeheartedly, there's certain things that I don't want to have to teach, and I don't have to.
You don't have to. Yeah.
I enjoy the contracts. I enjoy the understanding of those, and so that's what I actually. Also, because they directly relate to my compliance side of it. So if I'm training them on the front end, objectively, it makes me have less issues on the back end.
It makes you an awesome realtor for your clients too, because now you know it.
Well, that's
head and toe.
Yeah, that's what I tell my clients. I'm like, look, if somebody's, I don't know why, but certain clients want to pester you a little bit more for like, how do you know what and I'm like, hey, I teach this thing once a month. So I should know what it actually says.
Yeah, I might be in trouble.
So, yeah.
I hear you on that. I don't know the contract as well as I should, but processor does. She looks over everything.
I can send you, I've done videos on all the too. I'll send you a video.
Perfect. We got a lot of compliance ourselves, so we'll stay away from that contract side on your end. But so what has been, would you say, the most challenging thing? So let's say most challenging when you first got into it, not now.
When I first got into real estate, it was more of again, that personality of mine wanting to know everything. It was more of a fear of getting into a situation where I'd have to own up to not knowing something, which, by the way, it happened, right? And it happens to this day, right? Like, and it's one of those things of growing into that understanding. And so that's something that, like, because I know that I dealt with that fear, it's something I try to instill an understanding of that in any of these training classes that I teach, where I'm like, it's okay to not know something. It's also okay to ask as many questions as possible. Mm-hmm. Because like, and it's all about how you phrase it, but like, hey, I think this is what I'm going to do, what we're supposed to do, but let me check with my broker to make sure that this is the best for your situation. Nobody ever says anything negative to that. They're always like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Sounds great. But yeah, for me, it was definitely the fear of like, I'm going to mess this up. Like somehow I'm going to do something or say something or
some client's transaction up or something, and it's going to be an nightmare.
As you guys know, the biggest purchase arguably that anybody's going to make is going to be their house. There's different people, maybe not, but for the most part, that's what it's going to be. And so like, and then money makes everything more stressful. Mm-hmm. So they're already high strung. I didn't want to ever add to that by doing something incorrect. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I did a lot.
I mean, you're gonna do it.
I did it a lot, but it ended up. I'm still here, so it's okay.
Yeah. But you learn each time from it.
No, and that's the big benefit. I won't divulge too much. I'm going through one right now where it was something I didn't quite. I maybe did it in a way I probably shouldn't have. It's going to work out. Real estate, more often than not, you guys see it on your end. I know you do. Is that like most of the times the more patient individual, the individuals who are calmer, it works out. Real estate has a way of, hey, do they really want to sell the house? Yes, they really want to sell the house. Do you really want to buy the house? Yes, you really want to buy. We're going to figure this out.
Let's figure it out.
And so most times it ends up going that way. But yeah, every single time it's been a lesson of like, okay, not doing that again, right? Like, or hopefully positively, that was actually a great way to do it. Cool. Well, yeah. I'll teach this to the people I have here to make sure they understand it that way too.
This is how you could do it.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And it might be a little different next time. You don't know. So it's funny you say stay calm, because we've had people on the podcast, and they mention that like you're supposed to be calm for your client.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. You use a realtor for many different reasons. Yeah. But one of them is so that the client doesn't have our clients don't have direct access to one another, because emotions are, I call them the bane of anything, honestly. But the emotions are you're going to have an emotional reaction positively or negatively to every single thing that you hear during a real estate transaction. You need to let that emotion subside before you actually approach the other side. Mm-hmm. Having a realtor enables you to approach the other side immediately while still also avoiding those emotions, right? Because you're able to have a sounding board. That's really what, as you talked to enough of us and been in the business, we end up being family counselors and marriage advisors and
punching bag.
Yeah. We literally end up being, and that's the other thing too, like, is the realtors, it's not only helping our clients calm down, it's us ourselves having to be in emotionally control of ourselves, because sometimes it's the clients mad at the other side, but it's just it's anything we do with humans, right? Like, as a human, they always show you like the image of that, like the iceberg, and it's like the person acting out is the tip, and then everything you don't see is why they acted that way. It's the giant part of the iceberg under the water. And it's like, all humans act this way. I'll get mad and say something to my spouse. My spouse probably didn't do anything. It was everything that built up during that day that led up to that point. Right. And so, so sometimes it's, you're getting yelled at by your client, and it's like, all right, understandable. Sounds great. And then you basically let them get it out. We all do that. Get it out. Okay. Now that you're level headed again, how are we going to approach this?
I get it out. Okay. Let me call you tomorrow morning. And
yes. Yeah. If there's opportunities to sleep on it, sometimes in real estate, you want to keep that momentum, but there's sometimes if there's opportunities, I'm like, hey,
depends on,
go to sleep, think on it, call me in the morning. And if this is still the same decision, then this is still the same decision, but I want to make sure that we're clear headed before we take, go this route.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That is interesting. So, on that same line of thing, now that you've taken on way more than what just at the beginning was just your clients, what is the most challenging thing, do you think, to this day for you?
Honestly, still just handling clients. I know that kind of sounds silly. Don't get me wrong. There's like one-offs, right? Like, something will happen with an agent, and now I'm having to step in to do whatever. But for the most part, there's not like consistency with that. There's not consistent bad things on the managing broker side. It's, again, if we're doing our job, it's the same thing. Like when you talk with a client, like if I tell you there's a chance that the inspector could find some mold or mildew in the house, and then the inspector goes in and finds it, you're going to take that news better than me never saying anything to you. And then all of a sudden the inspector goes, there's mold, and they're going to freak the crap out. Right.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with my agents. Like, if I do a good job prepping them up front with everything that's understood and they could potentially see, for the most part, they're able to handle those things. And it's all about, I'm telling, like, I guess, if I'm going to name one thing that's the difficult part with the managing broker side, the challenging part with the broker side, is instilling confidence in new agents. I struggle with it too, so I sympathize with it, but it's instilling confidence. 9 times out of 10, the agent already knows the answer. Yeah, they know the answer. It's not having the confidence in what they're about to do. Mm-hmm. So that would probably, because it's hard. How do I instill confidence? How do I instill confidence? Right,
like especially when you're new, because you haven't gone through.
You haven't gone through it
over and over again.
Experience is the biggest teacher. It's also the biggest confidence booster. Some people, you figure out quickly what you need to say to them, right? There's like certain words, like, but in other people, it takes 5, 10, 15 transactions, deals for them to finally be like, oh, I get it, right? Like, I understand what I'm doing. So that's on the management side. Yeah, the client side is always, there's just always unique, which I love it too. That's the fun part. It's challenging, and it's also the fun part is that, like, each client experience is different.
Yeah.
Every single one of them is different. And so there's always different unique scenarios, whether it's, you guys are great. And like, there's certain real, certain lenders you guys are one of the lenders I refer to, that one of the reasons I do it is because I know you do so good work up front that most of the times I'm not going to get a phone call 2 weeks in going, that pre-approval shouldn't have been issued. Right. And and that's one of those ones where, like, that presents unique circumstances when that happens. And it's never lenders I refer. It's when, oh, hey, I clicked a button on such and such, and I found, and they said they could do, and I'm like, well, that's great. Let's see if it actually works out. And
I clicked a couple buttons. They gave me a pre-approval.
I know, and it's crazy to me, right?
It might work.
But I like, it's challenging, all those unique things, but it's also what makes the job kind of fun and interesting. I like meeting different people and different economic and social backgrounds and all this type of stuff like that. And those all present unique circumstances, which can be really challenging in a bad way, but they're also, a lot of times I find them challenging, like in a fun way. Like, how do I uniquely help you where you're at?
Relate to that person.
Yeah.
Every day is the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Relating to that person is definitely something realtors have to do. They have to connect some way or another. So
Treat it like a first date.
yeah,
That's what I teach all of my agents.
Connection here.
I teach all my agents when we, especially, if you're doing a buyer's consult, like in an office, that's the first time you're meeting them. I actually find that harder to treat it as a first date, as if it were just meeting at the house. Because if we're walking around the house, I'm showing you the house, you're distracted.
Yeah, you're talking about the house. Yeah.
So I can hit you with other questions, and you're not going to really think it. You're going to just be there. Most of they're open and honest about it. They're just going to be open. They're just going to tell you all the answers. And I'm pestering them with like 100 different questions. Yeah, I'm telling them about the home, but we know statistics tell us that 90% of the time they don't buy the first house they see. So why in the world am I going to spend any effort trying to sell that house? Doesn't make sense. Like, I'm going to give you the details. I'm going to give you the data. I'm going to help you look at it. And if you want to buy it, great, awesome. I'm not going to complain about it, but I need to form a relationship. And so as we're talking about, how do I relate, and just pester them with questions
to figure out what
so I find commonalities. So like when at the end of that house tour, we're leaving and I approach you with, hey, let's meet. Hey, do you got time tomorrow? 30 minutes, meet in my office, and we'll just kind of sit down and do a buyer's consult. I got 3 boys, so spending time with them, going to sport. And I like to take them to sporting events. They play, but I really do like to take them out to sporting events so they can see, like, I think it's all fathers' dreams.
Yeah,
all fathers' dreams to have their kid be like a professional athlete, right? And I know that's probably not going to happen. The odds are definitely against that, but like showing them that like it's okay to dream big. Like, hey, like you really like soccer, like we're going to go to as many Kickers games here locally as possible and see what that's like, and see how these guys, and they like their eyes open when it's like, wait, they get paid? And I'm like, yeah, they get paid to do this right
in
now.
front of the stands while you eat popcorn.
I was like, that's pretty cool, right? So doing that, I have a few buddies that I enjoy just hanging with. Sometimes the older I've gotten, it gets harder and harder to schedule time to be with people. I think that's maybe the American lifestyle. We always have to be busy doing stuff.
And the more your family, the older your family gets, the bigger your family. I mean,
it's just going to get worse, right? Yeah, as the kids get older, it's just going to get worse.
It is.
But I enjoy the time where I just get to go sit on the back porch at a buddy's house. We'll smoke some meats or whatever, and then have a glass of bourbon in my hand. Yeah. And that's a great evening. It's something where I really enjoy. But golf, and still a kid at heart. So is there occasional video game? We'll do video. So the weekends are comprised of a lot of pestering. Can we play
after you go outside and
Pokemon? And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's cool.
That's about it. Yeah.
Well, awesome. I know we have, Brian, you had one more question for him?
Yeah. Been asking everybody, but what is one piece of advice you would give to the beginner agent, maybe, or the person that was debating on taking the leap with a full commission job? What's something you could pass along to that person?
Yeah. So if you're the person going from like good income to full commission, have some money in the bank, right? It's not the absolute quickest turnaround time you can have to get paid is your mama like I, or
hey, my wife supported me when I jumped
right. Or have like at least 3 or 4 months worth of like what you need to have in the bank.
Yes.
And then if you're the new agent, let's say you're already making the jump, or whatever, and you're making, what's the best piece of advice? Start on a team. That's the best advice I can give, is start on a team. And the whole reason being is that There's you can have all the different analogies in the world. You can have, is it better to have, I always just say, would you rather have a little bit of something or a whole lot of nothing? Right. The idea being like, do you want the grape or do you want the watermelon?
That's a piece of the watermelon or the whole grape.
Right. And it's this idea of like, yeah, if you join a team, are the commission split's going to be worse? Yeah, they're going to be worse than if you went individual. Duh. They're giving you something, right? That's the whole purpose behind it. But they're giving you something. Most of the times they're going to be giving you leads. Objectively, you want them giving you everything, which is support, training, mentorship, leads. It's stuff that's like you get your license and the only thing they taught you to do is how to not get sued. That's the only thing that the state is requiring of you. It's not even sued contractually. It's how do you not offend someone? It's really it's the ethics. That's what they teach you in getting your license, is just the ethics of it, and then some national rules. Well, you're not going to be selling real estate nationally, so you probably don't need to know a lot of those national. Anyway, sorry, we're harping on this.
Ours is the same thing. Ours is compliance. I mean, how not to get sued, not
Yeah,
how to make a loan happen.
But they give you your license, and it goes, cool. Have you ever looked at the contract? No. But you're fully licensed, right? And now the state requires you to, within the first year, you have to do a contract class. You have to do all these things. You have to do some, certain amount of hours of continuing education that first year. But it doesn't. Again, you could put it off for 11 months, right? It doesn't, so it doesn't, I was like, what am I going to do? And just because you sit through one class one time, you didn't master it, right? And objectively, you want to be a master of your craft. And so joining a team, I wouldn't be sitting here with you guys today if I didn't join a team initially. Just flat out. Out of my first 10 deals, I did 10 in my first calendar year. My first 10 deals, one of them was personal.
Mm-hmm. And that's probably for 90.
Yeah. I mean, it's
up to 99% of the people in the.
Yeah. Just, I mean, like your mom might use you. Yeah. Right. Like your sister might use you, but your friend may not, just because you got your license. And that's the expectation sometimes with realtors is they have this. Well, some realtors have this very optimistic lens on that, like, oh, I got my license.
Good thing.
It's a good thing, but I made this post and now everybody's going to call me. I tell them up front when they come to meet with us and talk with us, I'm like, hey, look, it takes 2-ish years, give or take a little bit, of consistency of marketing to your people for them to go, oh, he's like, and it's not like the positive, like, oh, he's doing great. It's, oh, he's still in it. Like, it's just an observation of like, he might be doing well. He's still doing it. And so but the team aspect is going to get you that groundwork to go, get you that one, understanding what you're doing, hopefully objectively good leads, and support to continue doing it. I love where I work.
You gotta keep prospecting, especially when you're new. I mean, you got to prospect, and you're not.
Well, and I warn new agents about that too. I warn like experience, not just like brand new, but like new agents to us, or even that you've been in it for a couple of years. I'm like, look, like you're going to get so busy that you'll have like 5 things closing in a month. Mm-hmm. And it becomes very easy to concentrate on those 5 things, those 5 deals, and to forget to feed the pipeline.
Yeah.
And I was like, you may be good. Like, let's say like we're using this month, like you may be good in April. You may be good in May, but because you didn't do your job in April, June's going to suck. Yep. And maybe even July.
90 days later.
Right. And so it's like this idea of like, you always have to be, and that's the benefit of a certain teams have different stuff. Like our team here, you automatically get like transaction help. You automatically get stuff. So it helps take some of that stuff off your plate. So then you're able to still feed the pipeline, doing the time blocking and going, okay, I know I have these things, but I am making phone calls from 10 to 12 today or whatever that is. But that's, like I said, I said earlier, like I like my brokerage. I think we arguably do one of the best jobs of that in the area.
Yep.
But you also want to find the one that suits you. You need to find the one that you feel is going to give you the best growth, wherever that is. Like I said, you got to be comfortable. It's the same thing you teach your client. You tell your client, I want you to be comfortable. There's stress. I tell it to my agents, like, you got to be comfortable. You got to feel like it's at home. You can't go in and feel like it's cutthroat. It is a cutthroat business. If Brett gets the deal, I don't get the deal. It's how it works, right? That's not our approach, though. Like, we always know that there's more business.
Everybody knows.
Everyone knows realtor. There's like 8,000 of us or something like that, just in the Richmond area.
Right.
But everybody knows a realtor. But I tell people, like, you got to find the one that has that growth mindset, the one that doesn't mind sharing the knowledge, right? Like it does not behoove me to teach you anything. Right? Like if you don't know what you're doing, cool. There's more clients I can pick off, right? Because I know you don't know what you're doing. They're gonna but does it grow the entire company? Does it help, Yeah. And it's something where, like, as the company grows, the more opportunities we can provide and offer, the better stuff we can give. And so that's the mentality we have, which is what I appreciate. I know I can come in here and go, hey, I'm the managing broker. Is there still stuff I come across I don't know? Heck yeah. Stuff I come across I don't know all the time. But I got so many people in here that I can pull, like, hey, has anybody gone through X? And odds are the answer is yes. Okay, cool. How did you handle that? How did it work out? Oh, good to know. Bank that in my mind, knowing that, like, going forward, I have something to reference for those different circumstances.
It goes back to your confidence thing you were saying earlier. Having a team,
we have a chat. We have a chat that we use, like, Google Suite for everything we do, and we have, like, a Google Chats that, like, open communication, and it's just constant. I mean, I silenced it for this so you wouldn't hear it. But there's just constant, like, where people can communicate, going, hey, I don't know how to do this. Cool. Like, you post it in there.
Things from that chat, just yourself, right?
I see it all the time. It's great. Like I said, because we have, yes, I'm a managing broker, but, like, we have two of the broker, like, other brokers that help me out a lot. One of them used to be the president of RAR years ago, so she's got 20 plus years, and then one of the other guys has got, like, 18 years of experience. So, like, I'm hitting them up, going, hey, what have you seen about this before? And it's like, yeah, they may know, they may not know, but
everybody needs that. We have it in my coaching group. There's a personal, like, there's a big web page for the whole thing, but then there's, like, a personal page, and people put scenarios in there all the time. And I love just reading them and just being, and then seeing if I could answer them myself. Right. And then it's like, you're actually,
I feel like it's good to bank it too. Like you're talking about, like, it's good. Like, I may not be going through it now, but it's good to just go, okay, all right, cool. Yeah. I mean, it's really awesome to be able to see how other people's experiences. I mean, that's life. Learn from other people's experiences so you don't do the stupid thing, right? Don't do the stupid thing. Yeah.
But, all right, man. Well, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
Something else we're going to do a little different is, how can people touch base with you? So either if you're somebody looking for a realtor, maybe it's a lender looking to, not lender, it's a realtor looking to join maybe Keeton Co or whatever, how can they get in touch with you?
I'm going to tell you my Instagram handle, but I have to tell you a quick thing. So if you've ever watched The Office, it's going to be identifiable. My full name. I know. My full name is actually Michael Scott Gibson, right? So Michael Scott may kick that. So I use it as an icebreaker with clients. But anyway, so my they can check out my Instagram and message me on there. It's VA_Michael Scott. Like, that's pretty easy. They can call me, 804-647-1247. You email, whatever. Like I said, it's Scott Gibson Real Estate is on Facebook. That is literally, it's just look up Scott Gibson Real Estate, and that's me on there too. All that stuff, all of us now, it's all comes through on my phone. So it's pretty quick, but happy to talk with people, just chat. Like, so there's a lot of different people that, I've talked to that ultimately end up with us. There's people I've talked to that they did my advice, looked around and found one that better suited them. Great. They're in the business now and they're working with another brokerage and they're happy. Awesome. I'm just happy I like just sitting down and talking to people and figuring out what's going to be best for them in that situation.
So, awesome.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. So if you're listening to this, Scott's an awesome guy. I definitely worked with him for years, and just keep him in mind. So
appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
Really appreciate it.
All right.
Bye, man.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to this week's podcast with Scott Gibson at Keeton Co Real Estate. Once again, I'm Brian Miltenberger, and this is Brett Chambers at the Chambers-Miltenberger Team here at C&amp Mortgage.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this podcast and enjoyed it, please go on, leave us a review. 5-star would be amazing, but be honest with us here. And also, if you're an agent and you want your loans closed on time, you want exceptional communication throughout the process, and you want your leads followed up like green on a pickle, then give us a shout. 540-908-7764. And we'll see you on the next podcast.